Hey guys, so today I'm gonna rank all the hardest bosses in Super Mario World as Small Mario. And you might be saying, is this possible? Well, actually, yes it is. And before I start, big shout out to marmaxx Gaming for his 3 videos to give me these ideas. So yeah, his videos gave me the ideas to do this. So, what are the hardest bosses to beat as Small Mario? Alright, here are the top 10 hardest bosses in Super Mario World as Small Mario. Number 10, Morton's Castle. So when you start, there are thwimps hopping your way, which can lead to issues. And after that, there's mace balls swinging towards you. And you want to be careful for those thwomps. They can hurt you real bad. That fireball. And thankfully you make it to the next door. But you really need precise timing for this next part. But after all of that, of course that will absolutely lead to issues. Both this, if you're not careful, it will crush you to death. You're almost there, and then you come across this testy section with yellow spikes moving up and down. But with the right anticipation, and if you're careful, you'll make it past. And then you get to the boss. Really, Morton is not that tough of a boss. Just gotta smother him. And with that, Morton's Castle has earned number 10 on the list. Number 9, Ludwig's Castle. So when you enter the castle, you first reach this bone beetle. But if you're careful, you'll get past him. And then there's mace balls heading your way. And they're very careful to maneuver past. And then there will be a mushroom to help you, but we can't grab that. So, after that, we reach this falling ceiling. But if we hit the switch, we'll be able to get a head start. After running past the wall, we reach a section with vines. But there are Koopas in the way. But it's not a very hard challenge, and you can maneuver past them easily. But it's still a decent little challenge. Then we get to the boss. But all you want is to die here and repeat the section. Ludwig breathes fire, but he's also not that hard of a boss, and his castle's very easy. But either way, it has earned number 9 on the list. Number 8, Lemmy's Castle. So when you enter the castle, you reach these magic Koopas, known as Kamek. But you gotta be careful for where they aim, or else they'll hit you. And those fireballs as well. They're very sketchy, and there would be a mushroom right there, but we can't grab that. And there would also be a door to get a checkpoint, which is kind of a secret. Go through this door. But there is sinking platforms below hot boiling lava. If you use precise timing, you'll get there safely. The hammocks and the sinking platforms make it another decent challenge. And then we get to the boss. It's kind of a hard challenge. There's literally a fireball right there, but it's kind of like a game of Bump the Mole. And if you smother Lemmy 3 times, you'll make it out safely. But still, it is a very hard challenge. Well, it's not so hard, but it still earned number 8 on the list. Number 7, Larry's Castle. So you enter the castle, and you wind around blocks that act like a snake around spikes and mace balls. And if you're not careful, you will go down into hot boiling lava. And you go around more mace balls until the first section is done, basically. And then there would be more, and then maneuvering past this mace ball is the hardest part, basically. I almost got hit there. And you heard me sigh in the background, out of relief. And the checkpoint is a secret anyway, so we head on. And as we enter the next section, there's Magic Koopas again. But we can maneuver past them if we're careful. And you really can't waste so much time here. But luckily, it's really not that hard of a challenge, but it's still a hard challenge. Then we get to the boss. But you gotta be careful here. Unlike Iggy, Larry's castle has 3 fireballs rising down. You don't want to die here and have to repeat the section, but if you smugger him, you'll be okay. But the hammocks and the snake section is enough to put it on number 7 on the list. Number 6, Roy's Castle. So when you enter the castle, you reach another snake. But it's harder than Larry's because it's much smaller, maneuvering around lava and flying fireballs. And some fireballs can get stuck. And after that, you reach spikies. And some will fall. And if you're not careful, they'll hit you. And then after you make it past that, you're still not home free. There is fireballs raining down on you. Up and down. And there's some Bowser statues breathing fire. And they're also around big pitfalls, like this one here. But if you maneuver past it, you'll be able to do it. And then we reach the boss. And Roy is not that hard of a boss either, just gotta smother him. But the statues that breathe fire, and also the snake section around flying fireballs and lava, is enough to place it at number 6 on the list. Number 5, Chocolate Fortress. So when you get inside the fortress, you meet these spikies that appear up and down like a mouth. And there's chocolate lava. And without those spikies, without those red blocks, who cares? Anyway, you gotta dodge fire and those spikies. And if you're not careful, you just won't make it. After all that dodging, when you get to the end, nothing is breathing the fire, and we skip the checkpoint. The second section is full of thwomps and thwimps that you really gotta maneuver past very carefully. The first one is easy. That one too. But when the thwimps appear, that's when things are a bit more tricky. I mean, if you're careful, you'll be able to make it past everything. But it's still a testy section, for sure. And there's also spikes there, which make things a bit more tricky. And there's two thwimps. But if you're very careful enough at least, you'll be able to make it past. Then you get to the boss. Thankfully, there are Renzors for the boss. And then the floor collapses. I mean, it's not that much of a hard boss, but the course, like the dodging thwimps, the fire, and the spikies are enough to put it a testy number 5 on the list. Number 4, Bowser's Castle. For this one reason. So there's 8 doors to choose from in Bowser's Castle. But if you want to be if you're a professional and you get bored of the 6 easy ones, then let me tell you the hardest routes possible. So the hardest in the first section is door number 1. I mean, look at this. Without all these hidden blocks to provide more ground to stand on, it's very difficult. But I used marmaxx's gaming technique. Hang off for the first, and move toward the front of the screen for the second 2. And then for this next round, the hardest route is door number 6. I mean, there's spikies everywhere, and you gotta maneuver them carefully. And after you pass that part, there's more spikies. And then you gotta go through all these mace balls. It's basically the hardest swim test in the entire game for a reason. And just like that, we made it out. And then you reach this pitch black room. But it's not that difficult. But if you're a professional and take the hardest routes, you're good overall. And then you reach Bowser. But he's really not that hard of a final boss if you try. All you gotta do is kick up these balls, the Mecha Koopas, and then he flies away for the next section of the fight. But if you're not careful, these fireballs will hit you, and you'll have to restart the entire thing over and over until you get it. And then he comes back. But you gotta avoid the mushroom to continue the fight. Throws down big balls. Same thing just happens again. But things are a bit more deadly when he hops up and down. With the right anticipation, you'll be able to make it through. But it's still very testy, and it's your number 4 on the list. Number 3, Forest Fortress. And it may seem strange to put the fortress over this one, but for many reasons. As Small Mario, this auto-scrolling section is very bad. You've got these crushers and these grinders, and they can be so intense. And they're common in this level. And without these things to provide more ground to stand on, it's very hard. And if you're not careful, you'll die. Even when you try to jump. the right anticipation, you'll reach the second section. But there's a thing falling down towards you. 2 fireballs right there. And basically, this is where it's harder. I mean, you gotta make moves just to avoid the fireballs and the grinders. But thankfully, you're able to, just barely. It's a very tricky section, and it's also very ruthless. So, if you want to test this with Small Mario, you might as well can. And then you get to the boss. Thankfully, they're Renzors, which are a decent part of the challenge, but the grinders, the lava, the fireballs, and those crushers is enough to put it on a ruthless number 3 on the list. Number 2, Valley Fortress. I understand it also. I mean, it's really not that much of a surprise. I mean, if you look no further ahead, there are crushers here that you need to use precise timing for. And the first jump is difficult because it has spikes there, and if you're not careful, you'll accidentally run into them. Anyway, after you reach that section, there are some that fall on you, and you have to maneuver past bone beetles and dry bones. And you gotta use precise timing for these ones as well, because they'll fall much faster than the ones at the beginning of this stage. And after you reach that part, you still have to go over hot boiling lava and dodge fireballs. But thankfully, you could barely make it out. And you're at the fastest crushers ever in the level. You gotta use precise timing for this very wisely. And for some professionals, thankfully you can. But just barely. And then you get to the boss. Thankfully, they're Renzors again, which are a decent part of the challenge again. But those crushers are enough to place it at number 2 on the list. And before we get to number 1, of course, like marmaxx Gaming, we can't forget honorable mentions. Vanilla Fortress. Well, it could be argued into the list, but it's easy if you try as hard as you can. And most surprisingly, we can't forget the easiest castle of all, Iggy's Castle. I mean, it's the easiest if you're trying, you can easily get past. Thankfully, though. But still, it's a bit of a challenge because you gotta dodge over hot boiling lava, avoid the crushers in a auto-scrolling section. And then when you get to Iggy, thankfully it doesn't blow out fireballs like Larry's castle, but there's still hot boiling lava towards you. Just smother him, and you'll be able to make it past. Alright, what is the hardest boss to beat as Small Mario, you guys may ask? Number 1, Wendy's Castle. So when entering this castle, you gotta go through these bone troopas that are throwing bones. You gotta use precise timing for the crushers. And then the grinders are also pretty sketchy. and then there's only one space there. But never mind. Anyway, you gotta time the crushers very easily. If you forget where they are, they'll crush you. And then when you get to this part of it, you just gotta jump to there. And then, yeah. There would be a block here to provide a mushroom, but we can't use that. You gotta time these just right. If you're not careful, they'll crush you. Just like that. You make it past there, and then you skip the checkpoint, go through the next section, and then the platforms are up and downs again, along with big and ball, with big and small yellow balls. And you gotta be careful for the big ones, because they're slower than the fast ones that are small. Because you'll fall off. We make it past, hopefully, and then we reach the boss. But there's no cushion here, because unlike Lemmy, the fireball's raining up and down again. Except there's two this time. And Wendy is not that hard of a boss, but the fireballs are very hard. But use my technique. If you're doing it as Small Mario, you just gotta stay in the middle, and then after a while, after you do it twice, you gotta go to the left or right. And just like that, we've defeated Wendy. But still, these were challenging obstacles, making it the hardest boss ever in Super Mario World. That's just what I found. And a big thanks to marmaxx Gaming for making those videos so I can get the idea. But that's what I found. What do you think were the hardest bosses to beat? Put it down in the comments if you can find them.